All right, Max, welcome to JD Coffee. It's your first time, and hopefully it won't be the last one, even though we're getting you here at 6 a.m. your time.
It works.
All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here, and I'll let you get started. I'll come back in about 25 minutes or so.
Sounds
See you
perfect.
later.
Thank you. Okay, so hey, I'm Max Anderson, work for Red Hat, co-lead of Quarkers, and I'm here to talk about a little project called JBang that I created. And the time I talk is about getting started with Java, because I think that's the thing that that we forget how hard normal Java actually is to start with. Not that it stopped people from using it, but I feel like we can do better. So, so first, what is the hard part? So I took the liberty to actually go out and pose a question on Reddit to say, like, what's the hard part about Java? And the one that came back the most time is the verbosity. So compare Hello World in Python versus the one in Java. And a Java user, a seasoned one, would just say, well, this is just normal. And there's a few things like a class, some static methods, an argument that you don't use. There's even a package in some cases. A lot of things you kind of put on top of people to learn from day one. And there's stuff like installing Java. What is a JDK? Once you have a JDK, you have to have an IDE. Once you have an IDE, you have to learn the directory structure, Maven, Gradle layout, right? All things that are just kind of mental overload that we all used to as seasoned developers. But if you're starting, which many are, these are a mental load on top of all that stuff. And there's that just getting into the IDE, you then are left with, how do I actually get to run this outside the IDE, and how do I have a jar and upload it and get it to somewhere? Like, how do you share your programs? And all these are just the first ones you bump into in Java. So I'm here to then say, how do you get started with Java, what I call the JBang way, right? And this is me showing you running inside a Docker container that has nothing installed, no Java, no JBang. I install JBang, and this is going live. It's recording, but there's no editing, etc. So the longest period you're going to see here is downloading Java 11 and installing it. And then you have JBang set up. So I'm just going to source the script. So it's like opening a new terminal. And then I have JBang, and I can write my hello world in Java for the first time. And you notice that this is a very short and concise one. It's just print hello world Java, because we can actually do that in Java these days. Since Java 9, there's been JShell. And just to show that this is actually more than just a copy of some other language, I'm just going to put some Java code that takes the first argument and prints out. And now I pass in the first argument, and instead of hello world, we're going to get hello JBang. There we go. And that's getting started with Java, with JBang. I feel that's a pretty nice and quick experience. So let's just go over quickly what actually just happened. We installed JBang. We have a curl installation, which is the one I normally show because it works almost everywhere, including Windows if you have a bash shell. So on Linux and Mac, etc., it works. And this will download and configure JBang for you. And if you have a Java, it'll use it. And if you don't, it's going to download a default Java 11. And off to the races you go. And just remind people that this is available everywhere. So on Windows, Linux, Mac, Raspberry Pi, anywhere I've been able to run a modern Java these days, since Java 8, works with JBang. There's GitHub Actions, there's Maven, there's Gradle, so there's no excuse to not try it out, at least. You can get it basically, everywhere. So, the hello world. And as I said, people forget that we actually can write just print line hello world in Java. It's just that. So when I run this, it's just runs through JShell, and you can have arguments. So what you actually have here is that you have a JBang is the command, and then the C is the code, and the universe is an argument. So this is literally just printing out hello universe, and so this evaluates via JShell, and it handles user arguments, something that a JShell script cannot do if you use the plain JShell from Java. And there's no files to create. Again, for the user, he doesn't have to be introduced, or a new student, or etc., to creating files in a certain directory structure, that kind of thing. And there's no public static class main and package, etc. So I've actually used this to teach my kid to write programming for the first time, just to get this way, because it's so easy, and there's no additional things to explain. That can come later once you understood the basics. Okay, there's also an interactive mode where you can enter into Java, JShell, and do your hello world there. And just to show that, I said that it will default to Java 11 whatever on your system, but you can also just add a --Java something, and JBang will download the right version for you, and you will get the version 17 in this case. And you can put anything from 8 till 19, and once 20 comes out, you can do it too. Because the nice thing is, JBang is built on all these basic tools that we have in the toolset of Java, but just collected in one place to learn. Okay, so I talked about it was nice that we didn't have to do files up front, but of course JBang can do files too, and plain Java. It doesn't have to be JShell. So we have an init command. You can of course create the file yourself, but with the init command, I can guide the user through how to run and edit their code. And I can also, of course, run the thing. So JBang Hello Java will run it on any platform. And you'll see here that it will build the jar and then print out hello world. And if I run it again, this time not using JBang, I could, of course, but here I'm running with a shell script, basically. And this is something that JBang init made sure that this is an executable one. And there's a little trick I'll show you later how this works, but I can run the actual script, like if I run a shell script or a Py or any of those kind of bash script kind of thing. And it'll print out hello world. And you'll note there's no building this time because I hadn't changed anything. So JBang knows that, I can just use the previous built thing. So no need to learn about, compile and write and build steps. You just focus on the code to begin with. And beyond just a basic hello world that is the classic system outprint line, we can also create products with templates. So there's the one I normally tend to show to people or guide them through is JBang init -t CLI. Right? That CLI here is a template name that is inside JBang. You can also share and use others, but this is the default one. And again, when you create that, it tells you how to run it. And what actually gets created is this little piece of code. And I'll just show you what are the JBang specific things. So first of all, it is plain Java. There's no special things in this. This can be open in any IDE. But the first line is a comment that both Java, JBang, and Bash shell can understand and use to actually launch it. This is what enables me to go /app.java. But it's optional. You don't have to have it, but it's a nice thing for those platforms. And then there is the // steps. You can have multiple of these, and if you know Maven or Gradle, you know these as GAVs, or group artifact versions. So it's like if you use Python, you have an import pip install you have to do, or npm package, so that kind of thing. In Java, we are so blessed that we have the Maven repository, where we can refer to, there's a naming convention that can refer to these, and JBang just use that. The same as for Gradle or Maven or any other build system. And then there's just Java code. And you'll see I just use add parameters, which is annotation and comes from Java Pico CLI. And the code here is just hello world with Pico CLI. Okay, and So when I run this thing, dash/app, I can also do JBang app, of course. You'll see it will start resolving dependencies. And that works just as normal you would do with Maven and Gradle. And then when it's fetched those dependencies, it's going to build the jar and print out default hello world. All good so far. And then when you run it again, you won't see any resolve because, again, I haven't changed anything. So it's a cast run. In this case, I'm going to put --help, which is something that the Pico CLI understands and will print the help for you. And just to show that there was no extra steps. You use a dependency in Java, and off you go. It's that simple. That's the hard part. There's nothing else to it. Okay, so once we are creating products or creating Java files, we want to edit them. And again, the JBang way of doing that is just JBang edit the file. And if what I'll show here is just what happens on a machine that has no previous JBang installed, but has some IDEs, right? If you have no IDEs, they won't be listed. But what we do is we scan the path for finding known IDEs, so we can use those if you want to, or you can download and run VS Code. And when it does that, it's gonna fetch the Red Hat Java language server. It will head the Microsoft debug and a few other packages pre-configured, and in a few seconds when you start up the editor, you have ability to build, run, compile, edit with content assist as you would with any other Java application out there. And you can do this anywhere. So this little trick we do with JBang Edit, Visual Studio Code, Eclipse, NetBeans, IntelliJ, Vim, Emacs, you name it. It does even, I have it on the list here, but you can even use it in GitHub Codespaces or Eclipse.js or Gitpod. And there's even JDoodle and other places where you can run Java. Okay, and besides that little JBang edit command, in the last couple months, or last half year, I think, we have more direct IDE support. So you don't have to start from the command line. We can just start in the IDE. IntelliJ is the most mature here right now, but we are working on getting Eclipse and Visual Studio Code into the same kind of approach. So you don't have to start from command line, but you can start from the IDE instead. So if you're into IntelliJ, check out the JBang plugin. It's awesome. Debugging. One of the hardest things that are in Java, at least when I started, there's some agent fields you have to set. You have to set up both on the client side and the server side. It can be a bit of a mess. But in JBang Way, the way you debug these kind of monsters is just you add a --debugger. Now it's configured in the most common way, so that any Java IDE, IntelliJ, Eclipse, NetBeans, etc., can connect to it, and that's it. There's nothing else to it. That's how you enable debugging with JBang. So yeah, so what just happened? This was the JBang way, and in 5 minutes less, if you cut out all my speaking, what you have done as a user is that we started creating and edited and ran and debugged Java. Something I think is quite, well, at least in my honest opinion, is the simplest way in Java, and I'm even going to argue that it's probably the simplest in any ecosystem. If you try and install Python and Node, etc. from the start, there's a lot of overhead. Here, there's literally nothing else besides what I just showed you. And there was no talk about Java or Java-C or Maven or Gradle or no IDE configuration. It was just JBang and 2 commands, and off you go. And that's the goal of JBang, of making this experience easy from the get-go, and then go explore. Because I just spent 50 minutes explaining something that you can do in 5. And then what goes beyond that? And JBang is not just about getting started, but also to explore the dark cages of Java, or whatever light cages you want to do. So I'm just going to show you a few things. I can't show all of them, but one thing that breaks people's mind, it broke my mind when I actually made it, is that since I have JBang C on the command line, I can now use Java to write one-line scripts, which for Python or Bash or even Node or that kind of thing. And this code, just to for those who might not be familiar, here I'm running through the 5-letter words text file. It's something I have on my disk. It could also be any other shell command, but now it's just piping a little bit of text. Pipe it through JBang, which then has a C command that says, "Hey, take the lines," which is a magic. Well, not a magic, but it's a method that JBang provides when you run in this shell mode to take all what comes from the input, and then we filter through it. This is plain Java stream API, right? So we filter through them, get all the dogs, and print them out, and that's it. You are now using Java on your command line, so you can explore just from the command line, or you can reuse your skill as an advanced Java developer instead of having to remember how you do stuff in Bash or any other normal scripting language. And then just to go completely in the other end, you can also write a microservice with JBang, because it is just Java, it is just has dependencies, and that's all you need in Java. You don't need Maven and Gradle and IDEs to get this going. And whoops, there we go. So here I'm just going to use the template thing. In JBang, we have a QREST, which is a Quarkus REST. That's just a basic template. I'll show you in a few seconds what it contains. And just I am the lead of Quarkus, and that's why I'm going to show this. And also because it integrates with Quarkus build time and native images and Docker and that kind of thing. You can do that with JBang. We can also use Spring or plain Java or any other Vertex or any other library to do this. But for Quarkus, it's well, I like Quarkus, so therefore. So when I create it, I run it, and I'm actually then booting up Quarkus. And here you see it starts Quarkus in a few seconds or under a second. And then you have that port, and now you have served out an endpoint with JBang. And you can take these and then go do native compile and build, etc. And that's the idea, is that you can go from nothing to everything in a very short time. And I do want to highlight that once you go to a certain size, let's say over 10 or 20 or 100 files, then you'll still go and use Maven and Gradle. But at that time, then it makes more sense, but you don't have to, which is one of the things that I preach with JBang. Don't overdo your project or complexity if you can just do it with a few files on disk. So just to show some of the things, there we go, this is the MyService Java. Again, the magic line to be able to run it as a script, again, is optional. There's dependencies, and I'll highlight here that this is a Quarkus bomb. There's nothing special about this. There's no Quarkus specific thing, but it's just a bomb. So any product or platform that has a bomb can be used with JBang. And then the nice thing is you can refer to these entities without having to deal with the versions for you, right? Something I recommend you can do, because that's easier for users. You can set Java C options. There's also a Java options and a few other things you can do. Just to highlight that with a single file or multiple, you can have these commands set up, no external files, it's just there. And an example of you can include files. So this line here says, hey, take the index.xml I have on disk and mount it on resources index.xml for me. Or sources, hey, take any Java file from where I am and recursively down and include into the project. And that's it. And then you have plain Java, and this is the minimum Quarkus REST endpoint. And that's it. You can run this with JBang. There's no nested structures, no additional overhead in this. It's just the code that you can focus on. So beyond just writing code and doing, we also need to run it. I've always talked about I can do the -c hello, but I can also do the Java file, a JShell file, a jar, and JBang will just, based on the prefix, it's the postage, I guess it is, the file name will figure out the right thing to do. You don't have to know, oh, with a jar I have to do java-jar, and with a Java file I have to do javac, the Java file, or just Java. There's many ways in Java. In JBang, there's just one way, and it's the JBang way. And you can also run Maven coordinate, because JBang already knows about dependencies, so we can run, here's the JReleaser, another great project in the Java world, and it just runs it directly out of a Maven repository. And of course, you can also use custom or private repositories if you want to. But the point is, you can run a GAV. You can also run a URL. In this case, I'm actually running, it can't be full on the screen, I'm running a GitHub URL. It could also be a GIST, it could be a GitLab, it could be a bucket, anything of these like popular code hosting services. And what you do is just you go to your browser, copy the URL, and tell JBang to run it, and it will figure out the source code that is behind that project. And you can also run URLs. So this is actually JBang dev, is like kind of circular, is running the website of JBang. Not running as in hosting it, but it will download a script from JBang dev and run it. And I'm going to leave it as an exercise for you out there to try it out and see what it does. Yeah, but you can put any URL there. So any URL that has a main.java in its root will work with JBang. So you don't even have to have a GitHub account to share this code. You can have your own website. Yeah, and sharing is caring. Taco, who is in the chat here somewhere, actually contributed very early on a notion of catalogs in JBang. So instead of having to remember all these URLs, which of course is nice and you can do, you can put a JBang catalog in your GitHub repository or JBang catalog, GitHub organization, or JBang catalog in your project, and JBang will be able to reference it in a concise way. And you can then run what we call run aliases, which is like here I have a JBang env, which is going to print out environment from the JBang dev organization. Then there's even Microsoft has a JBang catalog where they can run a Minecraft server. And by the way, you can also write Minecraft plugins with JBang. And you can use templates. And this here, I don't have time to show it, but it is a full-on like 10 files project to run a GitHub bot for you. And there's even an app store. So if you go on JBang Dev App Store, there's a page that shows all the public ones we know about. Like here is Galder, I know he has a lot of scripts. And I think even Microsoft, JReleaser has one, Karate, Microsoft's JBang, Playwright, those kind of things are out there that you can play with in an easy to get started fashion. And one thing I want to show for Faker is a library to fake data. And here, one way of making it easy to use Faker in Java and get people to use it is you create a little file that says, hey, I want to use these dependencies, could be one or more. I'll import this code, this package, and create a Faker entity I can refer to. And now you can do what's called is the shell script thing or a file, doesn't matter. I'll say JBang, hey, go fetch the Faker at JBang dev, and then I can run this through. So this is again Java code that says stream generate, take the Faker. This is the Faker that's up here. And write this thing, which generates a lot of, takes a lot of words, fake names, figure out anything called Angie, and then print welcome, also Angie. And again, very basic example. You can imagine doing this for Hibernate or Elasticsearch libraries or that kind of thing. You set up a basics bootstrap, and then you can just give people, hey, run this command, and give that and do scripting that way, right? Okay, and then the thing that blows people's mind is you can install things. So JBang app install URL, JBang app install Quarkus from a GitHub catalog, JBang catalog, and now you have Quarkus installed. This is like if you know npm install or pip install, gem install, it's the kind of same notion. So you don't even have to use JBang on your machine. You just run a script that then calls JBang for you and do all the setup automatically. Okay. So in conclusion, JBang is my personal opinion the best way to get started with Java. The steps are super simple. There, we let you write anything from the basic one-liners and to full-fledged Java microservices or application if you want to. And there's a lot of stuff in between that we can have in another conversation. But for me, it is just literally the thing that lets you run and install Java apps with no overhead at all. And we have an app store, which I find funny, but it's JBang has a way to share, not just edit and write these, but also share them in way more easy ways than, oh, I have to have a main project, deploy to Maven Central, and now I can give it to you. In JBang, you can just share the source, or if you have the jar, in an easy way. Okay, so that's mine. There's a URL for JBang, and there's the App Store, and just it actually also works with Kotlin and Groovy. And finally, there's the slides, GitHub, and actually this presentation is actually running with JBang. But I don't have time to show you that, but if you want to, you can find the slides and see them and learn a bit about JBang that way. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Max. This is amazing. I keep telling people JBang is my new favorite tool in the Java space. Yeah, it's fun. You know, like JSON is great. It helps a lot, but it's the extra mile that JBang takes that I feel like really makes a difference.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't use JSL before I actually wrote this, and now I use it all the time. So yeah.